Never judge a book by its cover, nor a guest by his attire. It's a lesson that I learned way back in 1985 when I was training at the Taj Connemara Madras. During my 2 month industrial training, summer training as we referred to then, during our 3 year diploma of hotel management. We only had 2 months of training, the second year summer vacation. In one department of choice, I had chosen front office, and after a lot of time in the front office, I finally came to the front desk. Spent a lot of good time there, and then I was the reception, and I was able independently allowed to man the desk because they found me confident so that I was managing check-ins and check-outs. That time I was doing a night shift, my third or fourth night shift. It was the time of the morning when the city was in a somnolent mode, and so was the hotel. I saw a gentleman. I was alone at the desk, manning the desk. I could hear the morning shift girls already in the when it was changed and in the back office chattering away. And I saw a gentleman arrive in an auto rickshaw. So I could see him through the glass doors. He was, as he walked confidently towards the reception, he was a Tamilian or a Keralite. I could make out because he was wearing that typical attire of Tamilians and Keralites, full white shirt, pressed and nicely washed, the sleeves rolled up to the elbows, and carrying a hand carry. And he strode to the reception. As I could make out that he was a Muslim because the unstitched garment that we in South wear, called the mund or a veshti or a dhoti, is referred to as in the north. It's known as mund or veshti in South. It was tucked on the left hand side and not on the right hand side. That the Christians and the Hindus tuck it on the right hand side. So I knew this gentleman is a Muslim gentleman. He comes to the desk and says, "So I wish him the time of the day," and he says, "A room, please." So I tell him all the rooms, typical the front desk clerk, and he says, "I take that room." So I give him that room, and he says, "So as I give him the give him the grace relation card, registration card. I presented it to him, and then he was filled in, and then I asked him. He was supposed to stay for 2 or 3 nights. I asked him for one night's room rent because he was carrying a hand carry, so he could skip any time, and it would come onto my head. I would be debited, or my training could be in absolutely jeopardized. My career would have been gone. So I didn't want that chance. So he looked at me. And asked me, "A deposit for what?" I said, "That's a company policy, sir. Typical, what we were told." I parroted out that. So he says, "Is Amuda on duty?" I said, "Sure, she's in the back office. I'll call her." The minute he said that, I realized this man, he knows the name of at least one front office girl, a senior most. So I was a little shaken. So I called up. I went and asked Amuda, gentleman out there, out to ask him for. The minute she waked out, she was like, "How are you? Like, one party. Mustafa sir, how are you? And Amuda, how are you?" And all. Other girls followed from inside, and they all were welcoming him as if he was a long lost uncle who's come home. And there I was wondering, I had the cheek to ask him for a one night deposit just because he defied the stereotypical stereotype of a 5-star hotel guest. Suited, tied, suited with a tie. He came in an auto, he didn't come in a car. He came from the station. And for the conversation, I could make out that we had, further in the room, the Tamil, we had a typical Kerala influence and that Malappuram side influence. And I could make out that he had come by the Madras mail, which came from the Mangalore side, touching Kozhikode and Kannur, the Malappuram district. So I could make out that he was that accent. And as he was escorted to the back office, a very rare privilege for a guest. He was comfortable there as if he'd been there for a long time, and all the girl mustas. And then he fished out into his the other carry bag, which I had failed to notice. He was carrying a carry bag, and he was handing out saris to each girl, addressing them by name. So naturally, he was a regular guest, I was quite at home at the Connemara. He was not somebody who walked off the street. So, sensing my discomfort when he was having his coffee and the cookies that I ordered for him, he called me and he says, "What's your name?" So I said, "My name is so and so." So he says, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Palakkad in Kerala." So he says, when he heard that I was an IER, his tone became a little affectionate and respect. So he started addressing me as Sami, the typical term that is used for an IER community by the Muslims and by the Christians, who are by nature businessmen and who employ my community people to manage to manage the office and the finances. So they were healthy. We have a healthy respect for each community has with each other. They asked me what I knew or so I told them summer training. He said, don't worry, it happens. You did the right thing. You followed what I was told, and it is not your fault. One of these girls should have been there with you. Why did they leave you alone? So don't worry. Be comfortable. Have some coffee. It was such a sweet gesture. And then he reached out into his bag and he brought out a box of dry fruits from me. He says, "Here, take it, son. This is for you." I couldn't help but be touched by that gesture. And Mr. Mustafa, that's his name. And if I could remember that name after 1985, with all my hotel experiences, there was something special about that guest. For he taught me a lesson. For from him I learned a lesson, which he did without teaching me anything, without saying a word. But as next time when he was checking in, I was still there. Next, he asked me, "You don't want a deposit?" With a smile. So I asked, "Yes, of course I need a deposit." I said, a bigger box of dry fruits. Every time you come here till the time I am here, I need a bigger box of dry fruits. That's your deposit. One night's deposit. We had a good laugh on that. And of course, I got my big box of dry fruits from him. He was a big time trader of dry fruits and he would come from Calicut side somewhere to Madras, come early morning by the Madras mail, and go during the day out early morning, come back late evening. The next day or the 2 days maximum, he would leave. That's it. That was his agenda for the trip. But every time he came, he bought saris. So it's just a touching gesture. And he knew each girl by name. So Musa was for us special. Special not just for the Connemara, but also for me because he, as I said, not only a lesson of defying the typical stereotype of a guest, judging him by his attire, but also a man with a guest with a very big heart. Despite his enterprise, he had a huge enterprise. His simplicity, his humility, that stood apart. So next time when I was very careful when dealing with interacting with guests who came in like that, and that helped me in 1986 with another guest, who was a supervisor in my first career campus placement. Thank you. Embrace the twist to enjoy the twist turn.